The new month is approaching, and thus it is time to get our journal set up. For August, I'm going with a sunflowers theme in my bullet journal, but before we get onto the decoration, we're just going to set up the actual kind of bones of this layout. I'm not 100% sold on having my projects list in this form moving forward, but at the moment, I haven't been able to think of a different structure that I want to try, so I'm splitting the page into two sections. The top being my perk-related projects, so the ones that are related to either my Patreon or my YouTube memberships, and then the section at the bottom is just for other projects. So this could be other video content, it could be projects around the house, really anything that comes under that project title. While the other section is just going to be a running list, the perks section is done in an Alistair method style. So along the left, I list out all of the different perks that I offer my team members, and then on the right, the columns there represent the different stages of having completed those. So things like scheduling the perk, organizing the materials, and posting it in the various places. In my July setup, I mentioned that I'm kind of in a bit of a creative slump at the moment. I'm not feeling super creative and not feeling like doing a lot of doodles and decoration. So in terms of the decoration for this setup, going with that sunflowers theme, I decided to use washi tape. This one's from the Washi Tape Shop. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it made decorating these layouts a lot easier. I probably could draw sunflowers if I tried to, but given the fact that I'm in that creative slump at the moment, I know that I would end up getting way too easily frustrated if I was drawing things that didn't really realize my vision. Let me know if you know what I mean by that. You know when you're not feeling super creative and then you try and be creative and then you just get frustrated at yourself? Yeah, that whole thing. For putting this decoration on the projects list, I really wanted to focus on the top and bottom because I know I'll be focusing on the middle for the cover page. But before we get into the cover page, we're just gonna have a flip back and have a look at how July was going. So my theme for July was chess, and rather than drawing out the elements myself, I opted in to use printouts because it was just gonna be a little bit easier. Just like August, we have the projects list and the other projects section. So the projects list being related to making things for my team, so Patreon and YouTube memberships. And then the other section being for other project type things. Cover page, nice and simple. For the monthly log, I went with a rotated calendar style. So rather than each column being a day of the week, we have it so that each row is a day of the week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This style has worked really well, so I'm going to stick with that style for August, but change up the decoration a little bit because the actual calendar layout itself will be different for the new month. And then after that one, we had the actions list. Now, previously I was doing the actions list, so I had one half be one-off and monthly tasks, and the other side be my weekly tasks. But I set this up before I'd actually done my goal setting for this quarter, and I don't really have any weekly tasks at the moment. So I'm probably going to condense the actions list to be just one page rather than two. This is the nice part about making your monthly setups each month rather than all at once. You can make these tweaks moving forward so that you better utilize the pages. So we will have an actions list, it'll just be a little bit different. After this, I had my self-care tracker and my meal planner/log. Both of these are working fairly well. I mean, I can't say that getting out of bed by 8 a.m. is doing particularly well, only because I keep forgetting to actually set an alarm, and I have a tendency to wake up at 8 rather than be out of bed at 8, so something for me to work on. While I have been enjoying my meal planner/log, I don't think I'm going to include it this month, at least not as a monthly layout. I may still include recording my meals somewhere, but possibly on my daily logs rather than in a monthly collection. After this one, if we flip over, we then had my monthly review or reflection page for the month. Same layout that I've been previously doing, tweaked to fit into the traveler size, and I'm going to keep that the same for the month ahead. I have been finding that I'm slightly less inclined to actually get back and fill these in, and I want to pick that up again because I know that I really valued having them filled in for the first 5 or so months of the year. So I want to finish the year out strong, make sure that I'm still using these. And it's not so much the layout, it's more just because I'm in a bit of a slump right now. After this, I put in a layout for tracking my progress on the Bullet Journal Basics series. So the different videos and the different stages to complete for each of those videos. I did this as a Dutch door, so I didn't have to write those steps out again for this second half of the list. And then I've got some space here just if I want to maybe put some extra videos in, or if I want to write a list about other video ideas. Haven't decided how I want to use it yet, but it is here for if I do want to use it. For August, I continued with my daily logs rather than weeklies, but the style of this changed a little bit. So rather than doing just a simple header and then a list for the day, and then underneath this putting in another header, I decided to dedicate one page to each day of the month. So the first, the second, third, fourth, so on and so forth, and each of these has the same style. We talked a little bit about what this stuff at the top actually means in a previous video where we kind of went into my daily logging practice or how it was looking for this month. But the general structure is this part is all about kind of setting intentions and reflecting, and then this part is my daily list. So same layout for each day, so first and second, third and fourth, just using some little grid washi tape for decoration, keeping it nice and simple. And this layout has been working quite well for me. I did stick in one of my chess pieces that I had left over, but most of the time it is just the washi tape for decoration. And the nice part about having one page per day is that it was very easy to map out all of the remaining days of the month. So I knew exactly where I needed to start my August pages. Because July has 31 days, I do have a blank page here. Not too sure at this stage how I'm going to use it, but I'm sure I'll think of something before the month is over. And then after this, we're on to August, and now we're on to the cover page. When it comes to making cover pages using this washi tape in particular, my first instinct is to always do a cutout of the letter for the initial of the month, and then have the washi tape around the outside, effectively like the picture we have here. But because I already made this one this year, so I've already done an A with the flowers around the outside, I didn't want to have the same thing for August, even though that picture wasn't technically in my journal. I still wanted something simple and pretty though, so I decided just to do a panel along the middle of the page where I could write the August header, and then on the top and bottom of this I was going to put those flowers. I feel like there are some fairly common styles of cover pages, and this is certainly one of them, but it was nice and easy just to take two of the larger of the flower designs from the washi tape and then just cut them along a straight edge so I could put them on the top and bottom. Though the bottom one did give me a little bit of hassle because I cut a little bit too far and then I had to go and fill in some space, but it's cool, we got it sorted. The tape did make the cover page nice and fast to set up, taking less than 4 minutes from first touch of the pen to final erasings. Though, as always, that time doesn't include idea generation time or sketching in time. Though I was at least glad that I didn't have to letter in the header too many times. I did want to make sure that this was central, but my first placement of the lettering wasn't quite right. The second one was more where I wanted it to be. But this is why I go in with pencil first. I want to make sure things are in the right place before I commit to the pen. Flipping on over though, and we're on to the monthly log, and as I mentioned before, just like July, I'm going with a rotated calendar view. So we still have a calendar grid, but instead of having 1 through 6 on the first row of the calendar, I instead have every Monday in the month on the first row, and then every Tuesday on the second row, so on and so forth. This means that I can still read from top to bottom in terms of the week progressing, and then left to right in terms of the weeks progressing. If you were to just take a regular calendar and rotate it, you'd end up having Sunday at the top, or you'd end up having the first week of the month along the right-hand edge of the spread. Neither of those sounded appealing to me, so this kind of weird rotated view is what I'm going with. It has worked quite well for me in July. There have only been a couple of instances where I've accidentally put things on the wrong day, and I will say that after recording this video, I went to go and start putting in some of my events that are coming up in August, and I have a series of events that are happening on Fridays, and I of course managed to write them all down on Saturdays for some reason, but it's nothing that I can't fix, even if it is super frustrating. The monthly log took about 15-ish minutes to set up, but this time was inflated because of indecision related to washi tape placement. I knew I wanted to have some decoration along both of the edges of the calendar, so down the left-hand side of the spread and in that bottom right corner, but then the rest of the space kind of felt a little bit bare, so I decided to try and go and fill it with individual little flower designs and stuff like that, but I couldn't get the placement done in a way that really fully satisfied me, I suppose. In fact, throughout the setup of other pages in the setup. I did end up flipping back to this page to remove pieces, change them out for different ones, and even after I finished filming, there were a couple that I decided to pull up and replace with others, but the general gist of the layout still stayed the same. The way that I'm actually going to fill the calendar in though is by using a dot marker, in particular one that's kind of a really nice bright cheerful yellow to go with our sunflowers theme. Those dots will be a place that I can tick off my events as they happen, or put in some other kind of bullet modifier to say whether it either got cancelled or I didn't go or anything else. Most of them just get ticked off though, because if I'm putting something on my calendar, it's pretty much gonna happen. I don't like having to change things, so I'm usually pretty sold on those plans if they're going on this monthly log. Flipping on over though, and this next spread would typically be for my actions list, which would have two sides, the one-off tasks and then the weekly tasks. But for the month of August, we're only going to have a one-page actions list because most of my actions for my goals at the moment are really just one-off tasks and I don't need a full spread for all of those. This one's just going to be done as a running list, so I highlighted every second line in that light grey that I've been using. This one is Tombow Pen N89. It's a nice warm light grey as opposed to N95, which is my other preferred light grey, but that one's more of a cool tone light grey. But effectively, before the month starts, I'm going to come in and populate this list with the actions that I intend to take for my goals, or the small actionable tasks that I can do to work on and eventually achieve those goals. And I will very much be endeavouring to make sure that this list is populated before August starts so that I can hit the ground running when we come to the new month. I do always find that if the list isn't populated before the month starts, my progress is kind of shot in the foot. I'm much less likely to make a good deal of progress if I don't have the list set up before I actually get into the month. On the right hand side of the spread though, this is where I'm setting up my self-care tracker. In previous months, so months before July, my self-care tracker actually was spanning a full spread, so I had a full page dedicated to just daily habits that I was trying to build, and then the other side was all about weekly and one-off or monthly things. After getting a little bit too overwhelmed with that in June, where I just really wasn't filling any of it in and none of them were getting done, for July I decided to par back to just 2 daily habits that I was tracking and keeping my weekly and my monthly things pretty much the same. We're going with the same thing for August because if you recall my daily habits on my July self-care tracker, my habit completion, especially for waking up at 8 AM, has not been going so well, and I want to keep working on that in the month ahead because I'd like to get into a better routine with starting my workday a little bit earlier so that I don't finish it later. Like I said, I kind of have a natural tendency to be awake by 8 rather than up by 8, and if you pair that with the fact that I seem to start every single day just scrolling through my phone and checking the same 5 apps on repeat for 45 minutes, it means that I'm not necessarily getting to my workday until 9, and it'd be nice to be able to get to my computer by 8:30. Building a better work routine is one of my goals for this quarter, and being up by 8 is certainly a step that is going to help with that. In terms of timing though, this full spread took about 9 minutes to set up. I've appreciated doing layouts recently that are a little bit less time consuming, especially paired with the easy decoration as offered by the tape, and also being mindful that when it comes to filling in these layouts, when I actually get into August and I'm using them, I want them to be easy to fill in as well, or not so time consuming. So things like limiting the number of supplies needed, making the symbols that I'm using easy to draw out and use, that sort of thing. After this one, I was originally planning on having 2 trackers, so one for my meal planning and logging, and then one for a new tracker that I'm including. But as I started sketching it out, it became very apparent that I was going to need a full spread for this new tracker. And this new tracker is related to the book Make Time, which we read for book club in June. I really enjoyed it. I thought it had a lot of good takeaway points, and while I've been applying what I learnt from the book in my daily setups for July, writing out the same points time and time again isn't really working so well for me, and I also wanted a way to see which of the tactics in the book I'm using consistently. For July, I was making it so that I was picking 3 tactics for each day, and I was writing them down and then reflecting on how useful they were come the end of the day, but oftentimes I actually end up using more than 3 tactics, so I wanted a way to track which ones I was using, which ones I was getting good use out of, that kind of stuff. The structure of this tracker is fairly simple. It's just a vertical habit tracker really. So the edges of the spread, both the outer left and outer right, on those ones I'm writing down the numbers for each of the days of the month, along with the initials for each of those days as well. Along the top of the tracker though, we just have numbers. and each of those numbers just corresponds to a particular tactic that is in the Make Time book. If you hadn't read Make Time, it's totally worth a read. I've got it linked in the description box below if you wanted to check it out. A lot of people in the book club who also read the June read found it really useful. So if you're into things like personal productivity, organization, making better use of your time, that kind of thing, it's worth a read. In terms of actually remembering what tactics these numbers represent, so that I don't have to go and refer back to the book time and time again, I'm actually going to be setting up a reference page in my long-term collections journal for these numbers. A space where I can list out what they actually mean with regards to how the book titles them, but then probably also putting in some kind of a sentence to describe how I would use it. In terms of timing, from first touch of the pen to final erasings, this spread took about 15 minutes to set up. I know that the time-lapse aspect kind of makes it a little bit tricky to see how long things actually take, which is why I like to tell you how long they actually took me. But remember, those times don't include things like sketching out or idea generation. Recently, we had a poll over on the community tab to see what type of monthly setups you prefer to watch. So are they time-lapsed with a voiceover like this one, or are they more real-time where I can kind of show you in real time what I'm doing and explain how I'm setting things up? Because I'm making these videos for you, I prefer to know what you'd like to see. The real-time videos do end up being a bit longer, but I also feel like they're slower paced and give me an opportunity to do a little bit more explanation as to what I'm doing with regards to setting up the layout and why. I'd love to know which one you prefer though. Do you prefer the more time-lapsed version like we have in this video, or do you prefer the slower paced, more real-time videos with a bit more explanation? Let me know in the comments. Flipping over and onto our next layout though, you can see this one already has some washi tape stuck in, but this is going to be my monthly reflection page. As I mentioned when we did our July flip through, I haven't been doing as well with getting into my review pages and actually filling them in, which is a bit of a bummer because I know that they are valuable to me. So I'm hoping that I can schedule a specific day or time at the end of each month where I can dedicate that time to filling this in. I do like to fill them in as I go through the month because my memory isn't that great, so if I try and wait until the end of the month to fill in all of my memories or challenges or wins from the month that was, there's a good likelihood that I will miss things, but I've really just been focusing my attention on other areas at the moment. We're keeping the structure of this one the same as we had in the past 2 months, so that adjusted style that I'm using for the Traveler's Notebook, but in terms of the sections, we have on the left the wins, challenges, improvements, and memories spaces, and then on the right hand page we've got a space for doing a financial review, so considering how much I spent, how many yes spend or no spend days did I have. There's a space to do my planner review, so thinking about the things I did or didn't like in my bullet journal or other planners for the month. And then underneath this I have a place to list out what goals I was working on, what things I'm looking forward to in the month ahead, and what things I'm nervous about. For our reflection page though, in terms of timing, this one took about 14.5 to 15 minutes, so pretty similar to our Make Time tracker. If I was setting this one up from scratch though, so trying to think of each of the sections and what I might want to include on a reflection, it certainly would have taken longer. But because I use the same layout every single month, nice and easy. I did end up adding a little bit more decoration at the top of the left-hand page because the space looked a little bit empty. And then just as I talked about before, I had to flip back to the monthly log and start fiddling around with pieces on there because I wasn't quite satisfied with how that one had turned out decoratively speaking. While putting down washi tape in the wrong place was really the only major stuff-up I made while filming this video, the real stuff-ups came after I turned the camera off. So trying to populate my monthly log and putting things in the wrong place, or trying to set up my daily logs and thinking that I needed to do 2 per page or 4 per spread rather than 1 per page or 2 per spread, ruling in a whole bunch of lines only to realize I had way more space than I thought I did. I don't really know how I'm gonna fix that, but that sounds like a future me problem. Having a look at the pages that we set up here today, I love this washi tape so much. I know I already mentioned it. I think that the yellow and blue combination is super pretty, and I appreciated how much faster it made my setup. I'm all about saving time where we can, and I think the washi tape was a really good choice for me this month. If you are looking for more August setup inspiration, I do have a full playlist of my previous August setups, or if you were just looking for monthly setups in general, then the playlist at the bottom is where it's at. Click or tap on either of those and I'll see you over there.